Hello, I'm Cameron, and this is my partner Jonathan.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking today about a novel forearm cuff for C6 spinal cord injury patients. Now, in order to motivate our study and design of this novel cuff, we should first look at what the spinal cord injury is and how it's caused. So there are 17,700 new cases of spinal cord injury each year from car crashes and other different medical-related injuries. Now, 60% of these involve tetraplegia, or paralysis of both the arms and legs and other parts of the body. Now, another motivation for this is the increase in usage of makerspaces. They've seen a rise in usage as educational tools in the past decade. And along with this, the need for accessibility in these makerspaces has increased in tandem. Well, makerspaces are places that have 3D printers and other tools for rapid prototyping and ways of simply learning how to make objects and create certain things to work with. So there's already been progress in this regard. For example, Karen Arkamura with the Disability Lab already has a makerspace on campus called the Disability Lab on the UC Berkeley campus. And one of their mantras are that if you can't repair it or hack it, you don't own it. She goes on to say, disabled people are often actively prevented from repairing, hacking, or extending the access of the devices that they're given. We propose that we could find ways of allowing people with disabilities to work on their own items. So our goal in that respect is to test orthoses for the purpose of increasing the accessibility of makerspaces for people with spinal cord injury. We hypothesize that a forearm tool holding device will enhance the experience of an individual with C6 spinal cord injury working in the makerspace. Now, first we have to go into the background of what a person with C6 spinal cord injury means. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, C6 is means the sixth cervical vertebrae down along the spine. An injury to this damages the spinal cord and therefore the nerve connections going along down the spine and through the limbs and different parts of the body. Now, what this is classified is as tetraplegic, meaning that the arms and legs of the subject are mostly paralyzed. They can still flex their elbows and extend the wrists. Shoulder movement, and it's also possible, but with limits on lateral movement. They can't raise their arms as well because of winging of the shoulders. That happens due to weakness of the stratus anterior muscles. Now, they can still grasp things using tenodesis and a combination of elbow flexion and simply gravity. That's an important part. The antagonist muscle for their bicep muscles does not work like the triceps. So they have to rely on gravity in order to grab things. Now, you can try this yourself, but tenodesis is a way of grasping things by simply moving your wrists, which passively clenches your fingers into the palm of your hand. This is an important ability for C6 spinal cord injury patients because it is used by multiple devices that my partner will outline right now.
All right, so here we have a few typical methods used in assistive devices. On the left-hand side, we have a wrist-driven flexor hinge orthoses, which take advantage of this natural tenodesis movement Cameron just mentioned. And how it works is that the user is extending the wrist, which is amplified by a 4-bar mechanism. Next, we have EMG, which is where they measure nerve impulses to detect the intent of the user, which then controls a robotic hand or some kind of mechanism. These electrodes are usually placed on the forearm, but can actually be placed elsewhere on the body, for example, on the shoulder, if you don't have much muscular activity on the forearm, for example. And lastly, a common method is to use Bowden cable. So here cables are pushed and pulled to activate a mechanical hook or some kind of grasping device. When designing these kind of devices, the best source of information are the users themselves. For that reason, we have conducted an interview with a person with C6 spinal cord injury. Over the next few slides, we will go over the key takeaways from that interview. First being simultaneity. One of the things they spoke about was that tools they can use function in a sequential manner. So for example, they can use a drill press because they first anchor the material they're working on, and they then push the button, which starts the drilling process. Other tools such as the hand drill requires both them to hold the hand drill, put a finger on the button, and also have the workpiece in place. And that is simply too hard to do, and also requires more strength. Another important and maybe a bit obvious takeaway is the importance of ease of donning and doffing. There's simply no point of having a device which takes a few minutes to put on if you're only going to use it for a few seconds. And it's something we have kept in mind all through our design process.
One part of this is the space restraints of the makerspace. Makerspaces are usually designed for people that stand. This means that the space is allocated in such a way that people that are standing can access all of the machines and buttons required for that, for their use. Now, for a person with C6 spinal cord injury, they need to go around in either an electric scooter or a wheelchair. And this means that they have to worry about the space around them and how they can actually access the machines without bumping into them or being able to reach them. Therefore, we decided to design this device so that it extends the reach of the user. There's also strength limitations. Tenodesis is only so effective at being able to grasp objects. Since it is a passive activity, the strength of that grasp is not enough to actuate certain mechanisms. For example, the user talked about angle cutters that they used, but took out springs out of so that they could actually use them with minimal force. So we decided to design it as a device that can be used with minimal force. And this is it.
Yeah, so here it is, the novel forearm cuff. So how this works is that this allows the user to attach a specially designed tool onto the device whenever they want to use it. So first they attach the cuff onto the arm using Velcro straps to secure a close fit. They then align the magnets which are placed on the tool and on the cuff. And when they align them, the tool is put in place. They then use the mouth stick to actuate the locking mechanism, which secures the tool onto the cuff. But why is this such a good device? Let's go over to some benefits. So first of all, the device is completely passive, so it requires no motor and no battery. So you don't have to worry about there not being any battery left. You simply put it on and you know that it's going to work. Also, we kept in mind that the device needs to be sequential. So there are no tasks that has to be done simultaneously. Also, the cuff can easily be taken off using the Velcro strap. So it is easy to don and off. We also try to avoid using joints. This is because of two reasons. Firstly, joints put a lot of strain on the user when the device is used for an extended period of time. And secondly, we really want to avoid blocking the tenodesis movement that is so important for people with spinal cord injuries. But Cameron, how are we going to investigate if this actually is a success?
Right. So our chosen test group for this study will be people with C6 to C7 spinal cord injury that are able to use tenodesis, and other volunteers without spinal cord injury to measure from. They will sign voluntary consent forms according to city guidelines and will be told about the nature of the study as an educational tool, not as an actual solution or something that they can take home and use for themselves, but more as a prototype. Next, during the experiment, subjects will be secured in a chair with a harness, instructed to perform tasks such as drilling and other common tasks seen in makerspaces, and perform these tasks at 2 table levels, sternum and trunk. We found that the user we interviewed uses their mouth for some of these tasks, and therefore having it at these two table levels is sufficient for figuring out if they can actually perform these tasks with and without the device. The criteria for success is time for each task and completeness of the task, meaning if they can actually do it or not. After that, we'll have a survey about the device referring to ease of use, comfort, efficiency, and adaptability, whether or not they would actually see themselves actually using that device outside of the testing environment. Now, why does this matter? Through this research, we hope to verify whether or not these multi-tools work that are specifically designed for people with spinal cord injury. These are tools that are tailored to their specific needs, and it will success of this will lead to further innovation for these types of specialized multi-tools. If the design doesn't work, further research could be done on whether or not the device could be connected to other parts of the body, such as the elbow or further up the arm, or the ways of actuation, such as changing it from a mouth stick to some other action done by the user.
All right, so we have the strong belief that makerspaces should be a place for everyone. Everyone has an interest in designing and making creations. And we believe that a great product is created when different ideas are combined. And in that case, it requires every voice to be heard. And this research will simply be a step towards achieving this goal. Thank you so much. This has been me and Cameron.
Thank you.